In this video, we'll learn how to create a reusable input box component in Figma with all essential states, from default and focus to error, disabled, and more. Whether you're building a design system or working on a clean UI, mastering these states is key to delivering a consistent and accessible user experience. Hey everyone, welcome back to Figma Fusion Studio. There are many ways to create an input field in Figma, but let's simplify it. Most beginners usually take a text layer, simply using auto layout, and turn it into a component. Then on the artboard, they manually change the styles like success, error, or focus based on the need. But honestly, that's not the right way. In this video, we'll dig into why that method falls short and how to build an input box component the right way, with clearly defined states and reusable styles that scale well in a design system. Every form element needs a placeholder, so let's start by creating one. Let's delete what I created. Press the shortcut and to select the text tool, click on the frame, and type your placeholder text. Style it according to your organization's design standards. In my case, I'm using Poppins, 16 packs, gray color, and a line height of 160%. Once styled, press Shift-A to add auto layout. Next, select the placeholder text and go to the right-hand panel. In the width section, choose Fill. This makes sure the text takes up all the available space inside the frame, and then convert it into a component. Why did we create a standalone placeholder component? In most projects, you'll have multiple form elements, like input, password, search, etc., and each of these usually includes a placeholder text. If you manually style each one separately, and later need to update the font or spacing, you'd have to go back and edit them all individually. That's time-consuming and not scalable. With a single placeholder component, you can reuse it across different input types. Even without using variables right now, this keeps things consistent and saves effort. This approach may seem a bit advanced for beginners, but trust me, once you get used to it, it's a huge time saver and a more professional way to work. Keep the width setting as it is. We're not changing that. Next, rename the component to _form-text. Why the underscore? In design systems, layers or components that start with an underscore are typically meant to be internal. They're not intended to be edited or overridden by the component user. This naming convention helps other designers understand. This part is not for direct editing. It's a great way to keep things clean and reduce accidental changes in complex components. Update the placeholder padding and gap to 0px. Next, create the input box. Copy the placeholder text you created earlier. Wrap it in an auto layout using shortcut Shift+A. Set padding, 12 px left-right, 6 px top-bottom. Add a white fill color. Enable the border and choose a gray color that passes accessibility. It should be above -929292 for sufficient contrast. Set border radius to 4px. Adjust the input width to 150px. We'll make this dynamic later. Rename this component to _input-base. The underscore indicates it's a foundation-level component not meant for direct editing. Now, convert it into a component. This _input-base will act as the foundation for all input-related elements, such as text inputs, dropdowns, search boxes, and more. Perfect. Now that we have our input base component ready, let's move on to creating different states like default, focus, error, and success. Add a variant property. Select the input base component. In the right sidebar under the variant section, click the plus icon. Create a new property and rename property to state. Set its value to success. Select the new success variant. Change the border color to green to indicate success. Next, update the form text style that we created first. Why? The text should look visually different from the placeholder. It should be more prominent, usually darker or bolder. And the content should be different from the placeholder example. Enter name to Alex. You can change the text color directly in the input component, but if you update the text here, it affects all states, including the placeholder. This breaks the separation between placeholder and actual input value. Let's see the issue in action. We're not changing the structure yet, just the text color for the success state. Steps to recreate the problem. In the success state, update only the text color. Example, make it darker to show its user input. Copy and paste your input component. Set the placeholder text to enter name. Switch the component to the success state. Change the text from enter name to Alex. What happens? Now switch it back to the default placeholder state. You'll still see Alex instead of enter name. Why? Because we're using the same text layer across all states, updating the text in one state reflects across all states. Now that you understand the issue, we're going to fix it properly. Let's undo what we created earlier using the shortcut command Z or Ctrl-Z. Select the form text component. Go to the right sidebar component section. Click the plus icon to create a new variant. Name the new property something like text state and value as type. Update text like typed. Rename default to placeholder. Now you'll have two versions of text, placeholder and post type. Next, go back to your input-based components. Select success state form text to change the property to typed. Let's test what we created. Copy the input component and paste it here. Step 1. Default state. Select the component. Change the placeholder to enter name. Step 2. Switch to success state. From the right sidebar, choose success from the state dropdown. Now, change the text to Alex. Switch back to default. You'll notice Alex only appears in the success state. The default state still shows enter name. Both states now work independently. This means we've successfully separated placeholder text from user-entered text using a clean component structure. Now that the success state works well, let's build the error state in the same way. Select the default variant. Click the plus icon in the variant section, right sidebar. Rename the new variant to error. Border color, change it to red. Fill color, keep it white or adjust for contrast if needed. Text color, no need to create a new text state, just keep it as the type style used in the success state. But if your organization has a different style for input text in error state, like red or bolder, update it inside the form text component. This ensures consistent style updates later. Why no new text state? In the error state, the input already has value typed by the user, so we just reuse the existing post-typed text state. What if the error message is part of the error state? This is just the base version of the input component, so it's not necessary to include the error message directly here. The error message can be added later in the main input component where this base is used, which keeps things modular and clean. However, if you prefer to handle the error message inside the base component for consistency or ease of maintenance, especially if many components depend on it, you can include it here as well. It really depends on how flexible or centralized you want your design system to be. Let's see how to create an error message inside the component. First, go to the form text component and create a new variant. Name this new text state as error. Update the text content to something like error for now. Change the text color to red to indicate an error state. Note, right now, I'm just manually picking a red color. Ideally, this color should come from your design token or predefined color styles to ensure consistency across your design system. We'll cover how to set and use color variables properly in a later section. Now, let's test by copying the error text variant and trying to paste it into the input base component's error state. But here's the problem. When I paste the error message inside the input base, the input box height increases, and the message gets added inside the input box, which is not ideal. The error message should appear below the input field, not inside it. How can we fix this? Ideally, the input box and the error message should be placed inside another auto layout, a wrapper, that stacks them vertically. There are many ways to handle this, but make sure not to use absolute positioning for the error message. It can break your design and cause alignment issues while designing. Let's use a simplified method. Steps. Select Form Text and create a new auto layout frame. Rename this frame to Error Wrapper. Right-click on the input base error state, choose Copy-Paste Copy Properties. Now right-click on the new error wrapper, choose Paste Properties. This ensures the new wrapper has the same styling as the error state. Set padding and gap to 6px and remove the red border color from the outer layout. Make sure both the input box and error text are set to fill with. Now that we've created the error state, if you need to show a success message, you can follow a similar approach as the error state. Next, creating the focus state. 1. Select the error state and click the plus icon to create a new variant and name it as focus. Since we're working on the focus state, we'll make visual adjustments to highlight the field when it's in focus. 2. Clean up unnecessary element. Delete the error message. It's not required for the focus state. Rename the error wrapper to focus wrapper to keep your layers clean and meaningful. 3. Update layout settings. Set the gap to 0px. In the focus wrapper, since we're only styling the input box. 4. Add focus styling. Apply a border to indicate focus. This should be clearly visible but subtle enough not to distract. Use a bluish color or any color your design system uses for focus. Set the border thickness to 2px and make sure it's set to outside. This way, the input size won't shift. 5. Optional. Add a drop shadow if you want to give the focus state a subtle glow. Enable effects and select drop shadow. Use the same focus color. Set opacity 100%. Blur 6. Y-axis 2. X-axis 0. This is optional, mainly to demonstrate how it can be done if needed. We haven't updated the focus border color yet. It's still showing the error state color. Go to the default state, copy the border color used here, go to the focus state and select the same layer in the focus state. Paste the copied border color to replace the error color. This ensures visual consistency and removes any confusion caused by the leftover red border from the error state. Updating text style for focus state with cursor. Create a new text variant for focus. Go to the form text component and click the plus icon to add a new variant. Use the same style as the existing typed text. Rename this new variant to focus. Update the sample text to something like example. This is just a placeholder and can be changed based on the design context. We'll explain that later. Apply the focus text to the input field, go to your input field's focus state, and select the form text component inside it. Change its property to the new focus variant. Now we have a clearly defined text style for the focus state. Create the cursor indicator, blinking line. In real input fields, when a user clicks, a blinking cursor appears. Let's replicate that visually for the focus state. Draw the cursor. Create a rectangle with width 1px. Apply a solid fill, same as text color. Place the rectangle inside a new auto layout frame. Set the frame height to 26px, width to 1px. In the frame settings, set both padding and gap to 0. Set the rectangle height and width to fill container. Rename the rectangle to cursor. Rename the auto layout frame to input cursor. This auto layout frame now acts as a standalone cursor component that can be reused or added to the input's focus state for better realism. Place the cursor inside the input field, copy the entire input cursor frame, and paste it inside the focus state of your input component. Ensure input cursor and rectangle height make are set to fill. Select the top-level focus wrapper, the auto layout container, and set its direction to horizontal and gap to 0px. This creates a layout where your typed text is followed by a blinking style cursor, mimicking the real interaction pattern of a native input field. As the final step for base input, Let's create the disabled input state. Start by selecting the default state and clicking the plus icon to create a new variant. Rename it to disabled and update the background color to a light gray to indicate the disabled state. Next, go to the form text component, select the placeholder text and click the plus icon to create a new text variant. Rename this text variant as disabled and set the text to display disabled or any relevant placeholder style. Now, return to the input disabled state and update the text to use the disabled text variant. Next, we're going to create the main reusable input component. What we've created so far is the base input, which will be used across all form component. Now, let's build on top of that. Duplicate the base input and wrap it in a new auto layout frame. Rename this frame to input box. Update padding and gap as 0 px. In the right side panel, click the plus icon to create a new variant. Name this state focus. In this variant, select the base component and set its state to focus. Click the plus icon again to create another variant. Name it post type. Select the base input and set its state to default. Then, go to the form text and change its state to typed to reflect user input. Finally, create one more variant called disabled. Select the base input inside and set its state to disabled. Now you have a fully reusable input box component with key states. Default, focus, post type, typed, disabled. We haven't created any variants for error or success in the main input box component. That's because it's not necessary to include them here. If you want to show an error or success message, simply use the default state and update the base input to either success or error as needed. Right now, if we want to change the input state to success or error, we have to go inside the component, select the input base, and manually change its state. This isn't user-friendly, especially when we want to keep our components efficient and scalable. So how do we fix this? This is where nested instances come into the picture. What are nested instances? Nested instances let you expose the properties of a component used inside another component. That means we can allow users to change the state of the input base directly from the main input box component without drilling down into the layers. How to expose nested instance properties in Figma. Go to the main input box component. Select the input box component. On the right sidebar, click the plus icon next to variants or properties and choose nested instant. From the options, select input base. This is the component inside that you want to expose. Now, when someone selects the input box component, they'll be able to see and control the state property, like success, error, directly without digging into the component layers. This makes your component cleaner, reusable, and more intuitive for other designers to use. Next, adding icons inside the input box. If you want to add icons inside your input field, like a tick icon for success or an eye icon for password visibility, here's how to do it. 1. Use predefined icons. I've already created a set of icon components, each with a width and height of 12 px. These icons are individual components for consistency and reusability. I explained how to create and manage these icons in the button tutorial. If you're unsure, please check that video. I've linked it in the video description. 2. Insert icon into input base. Copy one of the icon and paste it inside the input base component. Why here? Because this is the base component, and adding it here ensures the icon appears across all form types using this base input, password, search, etc. 3. Select the icon and apply auto layout to it. Rename the frame to icon. Set width and height as hug to maintain alignment. Note: for components like dropdowns, this icon may overlap or conflict. I'll explain how to handle that in the dropdown section later. To make the icon inside the input component customizable, we'll use instance swap. This allows anyone using the component to swap the icon based on the context, like showing a tick for success, an eye for password, or even a search icon. Select the icon component inside the input base. Click on Instance Swap Icon. Name it something simple like Icon. Save it. Icons are not always needed, so let's add a toggle to control their visibility. How to do it? Select the icon wrapper, the auto layout frame containing your icon. In the right sidebar, either right-click on the eye icon or click on the Apply Variable Property icon next to Visibility. Click the plus icon to create a new property. Name the property Show Icon. Set the default value to false, since most of the time, the icon won't be shown. Now, when using the component, you'll see a simple toggle that controls whether the icon is visible, making your component more flexible and reusable. Next, the icon we added is currently only in the default state. We need to copy and paste it into all other states. Steps. Temporarily make the icon visible. Select the input base component. Find the Show Icon property in the right sidebar and set it to True. This makes it easier to place and align the icon while copying it across states. Copy the icon wrapper. Select the icon wrapper, the auto layout frame containing the icon, and copy it. Paste into all states. Success state. Paste the icon. Make sure it's aligned to the right end. Error state. Since the state has an additional layout for the error message, paste the icon inside the input wrapper, not the message container, and align it right. Focus state. Here, we already have a layout combining the text and cursor. Select the form text cursor layout, group them into a new auto layout, and name it wrapper. The text width is set to fixed right now, changing it to hug to ensure correct alignment. Then paste the icon outside this new layout, align it to the right within the parent frame. Disabled state. Paste the icon and align it to the right, same as others. Now your icon appears consistently across all states. Icon visible, make it as false. Focus state text wrapper width is changed to hue, which caused the alignment issue. Please ensure it's set to fill instead. Next, let's test how everything works in the input box component. Go to the input box and try switching through all the different states: default, success, error, focus, and disabled. Everything should be working as expected. The text and styling update correctly. The icon visibility toggle work. States are switching smoothly via the exposed nested instance properties. If all looks good, the base input system is now complete and reusable. So this is how we've created the input box for a design system, especially useful when multiple designers are working on the same project. To make things clear, we should also add a description. Go to the input base component, click on the component configuration icon in the right sidebar, and add the message. Note, don't change the settings of this component, except for validation. Use setting of parent input component instead. Why added message? We added this message to prevent accidental design issues. Often, designers might mistakenly change the main component settings, such as switching the from text state from focus to error. This could cause the focus design to become inconsistent with the rest of the design system. By adding this note, we ensure that the settings of the input base component remain intact and any changes are applied to the parent input component, maintaining consistency across the project. It's a safeguard against unintended modifications that can disrupt the design system. In main component, you won't see the message directly. You have to navigate inside and select the input base to view it. This is a limitation in Figma. Ideally, the message should be visible at the main component level too. To fix this, we can manually add the same message in the main input component as well. Note: don't change the input base component settings except for validation. Use the settings of the parent input component instead. Perfect. Now that the message is visible in the main input component, other designers will clearly see the instruction without needing to dig into nested layers. This input component is built to be fully customizable, reusable, and consistent across any design system. Important note: always use the parent input component to apply changes. Avoid modifying the input base settings directly, except for validation, to prevent breaking consistency across the system. In the next video, we'll build a dropdown using the same base input component with dynamic text options and visibility control for each item. So stay tuned, keep designing, keep exploring, and if you like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel